Today we're going to be working with August microgreens, and I'm going to show you how to use your bloomin' bin. Here's the basic setup for a basic bin. I'm only going to be working with one seed type today, which is arugula. It's pretty fast growing, so it'll give you a nice visual of what you can expect to see. I'm going to be working with it in two ways. These are Jiffy pellets, and they are good for either growing individual items, or if you want to transplant in the garden, they're really good for that. And this right here is a grow pad. This is really good for microgreens, and if you do want to transplant it, you can break it up when it's wet and plant it directly. I've also got my handy dandy water sprayer. Again, really good for keeping stuff moist. I tend to use it more for microgreens than I do for anything else, but it's always good to have around. You'll notice that I've got a couple of Tupperwares. You can buy an add-on to get a few extra of these, an actual grow tray, and those drip trays are really good for holding water up to the surface and keeping everything moist. I do not have one of those right now, so Tupperwares are really good. You just want to make sure that they're big enough for everything to fit directly into. Alright, let's get started. So first we're going to start with the Jiffy pellets. I've got a handy dandy cup of water, and I am just going to add it in here. I'll let it soak up. Not too much water. You don't want it to overdo it, but you do want to make sure that you get everything damp. Plus there's a little bit of a mesh netting around them that expands with it, so it keeps everything kind of together. That's why they're really great for transplanting and keeping your little root balls intact. I've set my Jiffy pellets aside for right now, and we're going to work on the microgreens. This right here is a little pad. It's great for holding water right next to the seeds. It keeps everything kind of nice and together, and it will provide a little bit of root structure, but when you're working with microgreens, you're not as concerned with root structure as you would be for things that are actually going to grow in the garden and get to a full head size. As you can see, the Jiffy pellets are starting to expand a little bit. We'll keep our eye on them as they grow and add more water if we need to. Now the first thing I like to do is take my handy dandy spray bottle and moisten the pad. This makes it receive the seeds a little bit better. It's not going to allow the seeds to just completely run away from you. Now we're going to take our seeds and we're just going to kind of sprinkle them around. In your boxes you'll be getting a couple hundred seeds, anywhere between 150 to 200, 300 seeds. So it'll depend, but for the most part you don't have to worry about adding too many seeds. Now I will be taking my finger and just kind of spreading them out a little bit, giving them some breathing room. Because not all seeds will germinate, especially when you're working with microgreens, it's good to have extras. I'm using maybe 60 seeds or so here. You can use more if you want, or you can use less. If you use less and you space them out a little bit better, You could potentially transplant them later into a garden. It's really up to you. Alright, so now I've gotten all of the seeds off of the edge. You do need to be a little careful with this mat when pulling the seeds in and separating them out, because it will tear easily. And now I'm going to add my water. Notice how I'm adding it to the outside, and it will soak in. Don't add too much water because you don't want to drown your seeds. Now, a couple things to keep in mind. Some microgreen seeds do need to be soaked ahead of time. These are arugula seeds. They do not. As soon as they come into contact with water, they start to split. That is expected. They start to expand. Their shell breaks open and they are allowed to grow. Some seeds will create an outside coating which will help them grow. This is like collard greens, cabbage, kale seeds, things like that. Lettuce, arugula, radishes, all of those do not need to be soaked, because as soon as they start coming into contact with the water, you'll start to see them do their thing. And now we wait. Meanwhile, as you can see, our Jiffy pellets are significantly bigger than they were. You can always add more water. Just be careful that once they split open from their mesh, you'll start losing actual dirt. See this one split open on the bottom. We're going to flip him over. All right. These are big enough that we can plant our seeds. I'm going to drop in 3 seeds, because again, they don't always germinate. And again, this is arugula, so it's going to grow pretty fast. We'll know probably within a day as to whether or not these are going to grow at all. And you can just kind of press them down. Make sure you don't take the seeds with you. And now we get to watch these grow as well. It's a good idea to put these in a decently bright window, but arugula are not usually a fan of direct light. So you don't have to put them right in the brightest spot. Lettuce, cabbage, anything else, yeah, they need a lot more light, but these guys can actually sit in the shadows and you will still see them do their thing. We're now about 36 hours after planting. As you can see, a good chunk of my little seedlings have started to sprout. They were actually starting to sprout after about 12 hours, but I decided to give it a little bit longer, another day or so, to really let you see how many of them can sprout in just a day and a half. Here we are 48 hours after planting, and as you can see, we've got lots of healthy little sprouts over here, and even more healthy little sprouts over here. Here we are on day 3. As you can see, looks like just about all of these seeds germinated. So I will probably have to thin the seedlings once they start getting a little bit bigger. And over here, we've got lots of good greens. Again, it looks like most of the seeds decided to sprout. There are a couple that are lagging behind. I think I see 1 or 2 that didn't sprout at all. And these should be ready for cutting from microgreens in another couple of days. Here we are on day 4. As you can see, they've gotten quite tall. And our microgreens are starting to get a little bit more crowded. Still going to be another day or so before we can harvest them from here. We're exactly 1 week from when these first got planted. They are significantly taller than they were. The microgreens can be harvested now. As you can see, they're quite tall. And it's about time for me to start thinning these guys. I will probably take out this one here, definitely this one, probably this guy, and I think I might leave these 2 as is for right now. And then of course for microgreens, all you have to do is take some scissors to them and cut them back. Obviously you don't want to cut them too far because you want them to re-sprout, but I could probably cut this guy down to here and be okay. These other guys need another day or 2. Maybe I could get that one. I could also let them go a little bit longer and let the others catch up. We hope that you have enjoyed this bloomin' bin and that we see you next month. And that you enjoy your microgreens.